what's going on, everybody? I hope you guys can hear me okay. I am running a quick microphone check. Let's see. Okay, I see Tariq is here. Tariq, what's going on, man?
Okay, there we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sure can, brother. How are you today?
Good. Ready to chop it up?
Yeah. This is going to be great. This is going to be excellent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let the students kind of pile in a little bit so we can get started. Now, everybody who's here, I want you to know that you've been invited to participate in this conversation because you are students in the Black Business School. And basically, the reason that we are together is because the goal is to for each one to teach one. And as you know, in the Black Business School, we love to bring Black leaders from various backgrounds who have various types of expertise, who are here to teach all of us how we can take our game to the next level and to be as great as we're meant to be. Now, you may, I assume you are familiar with our guest for tonight. He's part of our lecture series, and I know that he's going to deliver some great information and drop some real knowledge that will be beneficial to everybody watching. His name is Mr. Tariq Nasheed. Now, Tariq is the CEO of King Flex Entertainment, excuse me. And he also is known all throughout the world. I know that when I go to different, whether it's different cities, different states, different countries, different planets, other solar systems, other galaxies, they all know about Tariq Nasheed. They all know about Hidden Colors. They all know about this man's accomplishments. So before we move on, I want to ask my brother, how you doing today, man?
Good, man. How's everything going with you?
It's going really well, really well. I'm back in Louisville, Kentucky, just hanging out for the new year, you know, ready for 2018.
Oh, yeah.
Ready to move forward for bigger and better things.
Absolutely. Leave a lot of stuff in 2017.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, so much stuff is being left in 2017 that it won't even get mentioned in 2018 that much. There you go. And so, in case anybody wants to know how Tariq and I became friends, we, I think the first time I met up with you, man, was when we were in Chicago, in O'Hare, right? Was that that was the first time we met, right?
Yep. You were coming, I think you were coming from out of the country somewhere, I think.
You know what? I think I might have been coming from South Africa at that time. And we were in the airport, and I sent you a text about something else. And it was interesting because I think I said something like, "So where are you at?" And you said, "I'm landing in Chicago." Yeah. And I said, "Well, wait a minute. I'm in Chicago right now. I'm in O'Hare." And I said, "What gate are you at?" And it turned out you were at O'Hare too, and you gave me the gate, and I was able to walk over to your gate, and that was literally the first time we ever had a conversation.
Absolutely. Had a real good conversation, and we chopped it up, man. I've been chopping it up ever since.
Yeah. And I remember that was the day we talked about, you know, Hidden Colors, and I was really appreciative that you invited me to be a part of that project. That's actually, and I would love for you actually to, you know, fill in the blanks on some of this in terms of helping us to kind of know the achievements of the Hidden Colors series and what you kind of accomplished with that. But, you know, from what I have seen, kind of as an outsider kind of looking in, I'm almost guessing that Hidden Colors it has really actually made cinematic history. Yeah. Would I be correct in saying that?
Absolutely. It's really the best-selling Black history documentary ever. And if you look at documentary films about Black history, no other film has come close. Even narrative films about Black history, you know, like Roots, that can come close, but it was really more of a narrative, fictional account of what happened in the book. But as far as documentary films, just telling the truth about different forms of history, nothing has ever come close to the Hidden Colors series. And it was a great collaborative effort between me and a lot of great scholars.
Wow. Well, you know, for those whose heads have been buried under a rock, the Hidden Colors series is kind of like the film that everybody has been talking about. It's a series that everyone's been talking about for years. Every Black person that I know of who's seeking to kind of elevate in terms of their knowledge of history, their consciousness, you know, things like that. They've all, you know, participated, you know, in that in terms of watching the series and talking about it and things like that. I know that it's funny, man. It seems to me that when I talk to people about Hidden Colors, it's interesting. It's like either people they really, really, really know about it, almost like it's like the Black Star Wars type of blockbuster type of film, or they know nothing about it. You know, it's almost like there's this whole unit. Have you ever run into that where there are black folks that just literally have no clue like that Hidden Colors even exist? But then you have those where it's like, oh, of course, everybody knows about Hidden Colors. What's your experience with that?
Yeah, usually the people who don't know about it, it's really the love and hip hop crowd. The people who really watch a lot of VH1 stuff, and shout out to VH1, I've done work with VH1, but people who watch those type of shows or the gossipy type of shows or the housewife type of shows and who's really into that vibe, many of them won't know about it. Not many of them do, but for them to not know about the Hidden Color series, that means that you really have no online presence where you're seeing what's going on online, because everybody talks about it online, everybody talks about it in the streets. So these are people who are glued to like daytime television, and that's pretty much their only world when it comes to media. Those are the kind of people who don't know about it. But most people in Black society, I'm assuming, knows about it because it's all over the place. I mean, they bootlegged it like crazy. You know, they bootlegged the Hidden Color series so much. I got a call from Homeland Security. I got an email from Homeland Security about a year ago, and they told me that there was a shipment from China, a shipment of bootleg Hidden Colors DVDs. He asked me, did I know anything about it? Dude, I put the email up on my Instagram. I'm like, and that showed me how this thing is on a whole different level if Homeland Security is calling me about the bootlegs and they had to make some kind of interference. So that was insane to me.
so they slinging your DVDs like dope. They doing shipments from overseas.
Yeah, El Chapo running up on
man. Well, you know what? I love that though. I mean, you know, I know what you mean though. You know, it's kind of unfortunate when people, you know, bootleg and all that. And I hope everybody in here, you know, I know most of the students in the Black Business School are the types of people that understand the importance of respecting a Black business and supporting Black businesses, you know. So I don't think most of them would get down with that type of thing. And I hope that if you see something, you'll say something, because you know, people don't understand how much work, how much money, you know, how much effort it takes to create something like that, you know, so it's not respectful to just kind of steal it, you know.
And also, when you look at the movie industry, was Black people, we've always been at the forefront of a lot of movements when it comes to independent filmmaking. And Hollywood has taken a cue from that. Let's go back to the early days of filmmaking. Back in the early 1900s, there was a monopoly on the film industry. There were like a few families who owned everything. That's why they had a big trial about it, about the media and communism and all that. They had a trial later, but the movie industry was definitely monopolized by certain families in Hollywood. And it was a Black man named Oscar Micheaux, who's the father of independent films, white or Black. People always make it seem like it's just he's a Black icon, but you didn't have white independent filmmakers doing it like Oscar Micheaux. And what this brother would do, he was an author. He would use the proceeds from his books to rent out theaters and then use that money to make films. They were cheaply done, but he would use the money, make the films, and show them to the Black audience who was segregated. The Black audience couldn't go to the white theaters. So he saw that there was a market there. Black people wanted to see their own images, and he took advantage of that. Then Hollywood took their cue, and then they started doing the Step and Fetch It movies and all that later. But he's really the father of independent filmmaking. Let's go back to the late 60s, early 70s, when there was white flight after 1968, when they had to desegregate housing and legally stop housing discrimination, which they really never stopped. They just codified the words and language. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of white flight in inner cities. And what happened, you had a lot of theaters that were empty. A lot of those movie theaters in the inner cities were empty because white people were moving to the suburbs. So in order to fill those theaters, what they would do, they would start showing porno movies. They would get cheap movies from China. That's why we'd see all those karate films back in the day, starting in the early 70s. And you had a brother, Melvin Van Peebles, who did the Sweet Sweetback movie. And when he did that movie, it made a whole bunch of money, and that kicked off what's called the Blaxploitation era. And that Blaxploitation era really saved Hollywood, because Hollywood was losing so much money because of white flight, because people weren't going to those theaters. The mafia started to control those theaters. That's why in the early 70s, you had blockbuster porn movies like Deep Throat, and Behind the Green Door, all of these porn movies were blowing up because that's what you could see in large numbers. After the blaxploitation boom saved Hollywood, they had Shaft and all of these movies that they'll admit that these movies saved the Hollywood system. They used those blaxploitation dollars to fund movies like Jaws. Jaws was the thing that brought Hollywood back into the mainstream again, because then they started to build those Metroplex theaters all in the suburbs by 1975. But they got the proceeds from that, those Jaws and Star Wars movies, from those Superflies and those Shafts and those Mac movies. So we've always led the forefront when it came to independent filmmaking, and we're leading the forefront now. With the Hidden Colors series being so successful, the mainstream media, they've gone out of their way to try to ignore it. They know who the hell I am. I'm on TV all the time. They're getting on my case about some shit I didn't tweeted, but they know exactly who I am. I'm on CNN, Fox all the time, but they go out of their way to not mention the movies and not mention that the movie is like #1 on the charts right now. And there's a reason why you see movies like Hidden Figures come out. There's a reason why they named that movie that. So
interesting.
Yeah, people piggyback on a lot of grassroots movements and flip it. Just like the movie 13. That movie was Oscar nominated. 13 had people from Hidden Colors in that. That was Ava DuVernay's movie, shout out to her. But you know, that was a white funded movie with the same type of theme that we were talking about. So people, they look at what we're doing. We're being seen, even if they don't say nothing about it, even if they don't acknowledge, which I don't care about them acknowledging us anyway. I only care about our audience. Are we getting the message? Are we circulating our dollars? Are we building an industry that we can utilize to get our messages out, and then people can make a living off that industry?
Well, you know, I'll tell you what, you know, I mean, I think greatness recognizes greatness. And, you know, it seems to me that generally in any industry, when somebody does something that others see as a first or as a better way to do something, you're going to have your imitators. You're going to have the people that kind of copy what you're doing, and it's a source of flattery. But what's really interesting, though, is what you just said about how the mainstream, it's like, it's almost, it's a little bit, it reminds me a little bit, you were talking about the porn industry earlier, so it reminds me a little bit of the porn industry, how, you know, it's making all this money because so many people are paying for the content, but no one acknowledges it. You know, no one wants anything to do with it. But there's a reason why they're making more money than damn near everybody else. And so it's almost like with blackness or anything that's great that comes out of black culture, you know, in particular things like Hidden Colors. You mentioned the mainstream, how they'll copy what you're doing, they'll learn from what you're doing, they'll try to build off of what you're doing, but they won't give credit to the source. They won't really say, you know, Tariq Nasheed is one of the great ones. Tariq Nasheed is this, and this in the industry. They'll kind of act like you don't exist, not even acknowledge you. But it's like you're the elephant in the middle of the room. I mean, there's a point where something is so big that you look silly not acknowledging it.
And you know, and that's the same thing with the rap industry. You know, for a long time, like in the 80s, there's a lot of rap records that should have went platinum that didn't. And they were making a lot of money on rap records. And at the time, they would account for the sales manually. The record labels would call a record store, and the record store would tell them, okay, this is selling, that is selling. But the thing is, the open secret was a lot of these record store owners were on the payroll of the record labels. So the record labels would kick them a couple of dollars to say, hey, say Aerosmith is doing good this week. Say Bon Jovi is doing good this week. So it was a very weak system. And they wouldn't really acknowledge the rap records were selling like they were, but they were, and the record labels were still making money. Now, in 1991, they had SoundScan for the first time, where there was an automated system that they had to scan the records, and Billboard and all of the chart people will automatically know what records were selling the most manually. And the minute they had the SoundScan, they found out that NWA's record had shot to #1. That album from NWA was killing everybody, and that completely changed the industry. That's when everybody started to switch over to a rap format. That killed a lot of R&B in the early 90s. And that just showed the power that we've always had. NWA didn't just start selling records, or rap records weren't selling like that just starting in the 90s. It always sold like that, but we weren't being acknowledged. But that money was being pocketed, and it was like a little secret. You know, rap was like porn to a certain degree. That's why with Campbell, Luke Skywalker, they were getting him on obscenity charges, and they had to put his record in porn shops and put it in the porn section. So there's always been that dirty little secret thing when it comes to our products.
Okay, got you. Okay, so that makes sense. You know, I think and maybe that's one of the things that makes me want to go out of my way to make sure people know what I think about Hidden Colors, because you know it's so strange when people want to act like it's not relevant. You think, okay, how big does something have to be? How much money does something have to make? And I'd be curious, you know, in terms of information that you're comfortable releasing publicly, can you kind of give any numbers, metrics, statistics, dollar signs, anything that is a kind of a measure of how well the series has done, just so people can have something to kind of visualize it with?
Yeah, I won't get too specific. I learned that from Melvin Peoples. He don't tell nobody nothing about how much.
Me either.
But it made a few million. I will say that it made a few million. Yeah.
So let me ask you. Well, let me ask you this. Okay, so let's talk about that million mark, like, because everybody here, we got a whole lot of people in here that want to be millionaires. You know, we got people in here that are hungry, that are strong, that you know believe in the power of the greatness of the melanin, and they're trying to figure out, okay, how do I make my first million for my family? Because I think that's kind of a significant point, you know, for a lot of people. A lot of people dream about being millionaires. Most people don't get to become them, but it's sort of like once you have that feeling of what it feels like to make $1 million. You're like, okay, it was hard. It takes a lot of work, but it's like, you know, it's really about knowing kind of the little tweaks to the game. You know, just kind of how to twist a little bit what you're doing and go in the right direction. And it's something I believe a lot of people can accomplish if they kind of know just how to get there. So let me ask you this, man. At what point did you make like your first million, say in a year or whatever the case may be, when you could technically say, you know, I've crossed that mark?
I did that years ago with, like, when I was an author writing my books, and you know I would go on tour then. So you know I touched $1 million a few years before the Hidden Colors series. And the thing is, I always learned, and I learned this from traveling, because when I remember getting one of my first major book deals, and I went over to Saint-Tropez. That's when everybody was going to Saint-Tropez in the early 2000s, flossing, and I'm over there trying to floss on somebody's yacht. And I was French dudes, and I'm over there, yeah, man, you know, I got this little $50,000. You know, I'm bragging. They were like, yeah, we just spent that at the mall today. I said, oh, damn, I'm gonna see something there. Yeah. At that point, I'm like, I'm gonna listen. Let me not floss. Let me stop flossing and listen, because that's where we get caught up trying to floss. And I learned flossing don't mean nothing. These cats weren't flossing at all. They were just doing it, living, and they acted like they were supposed to have that kind of money. So I started to learn, when I got money, cut the floss game out. Get that out of your system. Get it out early. I tell folks, get that flossy, driving around in your whip, all that nigga shit, get that out your system very early. Because when it comes to really stacking your paper, that's the thing that kills a lot of people. They touch a little money. See, people talk about what they're gonna do with money. Like every year you hear somebody saying, man, when I get my income tax check, I'm gonna start a business. They talk a whole bunch of stuff about what they're gonna do. But the minute they get that income tax check, you see people buying tables at the club. You see all the Jordans and the Reeboks and the fur coats and the jewelry and the watches. It's floss time. After April, between April and May, black folks be out here flossing their ass off. You see big weaves, gold teeth all over the place. So we gotta get that out of our system, see? And luckily I got that out of my system early. So when the Hidden Colors money came, and I raised money for that, and I used a lot of my own money, I said, okay, I'm gonna dip this money into this project and make this project competitive to what's out there already. Because a lot of times when it comes to black products, we try to cut corners. A lot of times when we get money for something, we'll do the bare minimum, pocket all the money, and we try to do good numbers for black society. And we'll try to raise the bar low. I saw a documentary. I know it was Cornel West in it. It was some big name people in it. And it was funded by the Rockefeller Foundation. So I know they had to have gotten at least $1 million for this documentary. I cannot think of the name of it for nothing, but I'm looking at it and the quality was real cheap. I mean, it looked like they shot it for like $5,000 or $6,000. And I said, what are they doing with the money with this thing? I don't want to do that. I don't want to sell black people short. I want to make my stuff look like the stuff that Paramount and Universal is putting out. So you always got to have quality. If you're going to compete with the big dogs. Also, what I did, and this is what I get on black folks on, because black people have this thing, and I was arguing with some black folks now about, hey man, how come you hired some white people on your film production? And I've had black people say that like it's a bad thing. A lot of times when it comes to starting businesses, black people, we think we're supposed to just hire a bunch of black folks because they're black. That's not how you run a black business. A business family, first and foremost, is about making money. If you're not making money in that business, you can't hire nobody, even yourself. Nobody's going to get paid because there's not going to be money generated. Businesses are all about circulation of cash. You have to circulate money. You have to create a product of quality, put it out on the market that's competitive with other products, and people have to choose your product over the other competitive products. So your product has to be up to par. You got to find people who's going to make your product up to par. If they don't make it up to par, you're going to go down, slide into the chitlin circuit, and the people from the chitlin circuit are up here looking at the on par stuff, and your stuff is going to fall by the wayside. So we have to always look at what's going to make my product competitive so I can make paper. So whoever works for you, that's irrelevant until you get your weight up, and once you get your weight up, you can start doing an apprenticeship, bringing other newer people up, training them once you have the money to kind of subside the time for doing that, because running a business takes time. And it also takes time to train people and bring new people into the fold. So we always have to look at businesses as, how is my business going to be competitive? How is it going to make money? Let me not just hire all my black buddies, because BET used to operate like that. When BET first got started, if you remember the early BET shows like Video Soul and all that stuff, it had a very public access quality to it. Because it was broadcasting out there in DC. They hired a bunch of local people from local stations out there, and they didn't have the expertise of the cameraman in New York and LA. And you could tell by the quality. You could tell by the editing was always off, the sound was always off, there was always glitches. So it didn't compete. And for a long time, BET was looked at as almost a joke to a certain degree, until they got that Viacom money and they started getting more quality programming. So I don't want to have to wait until a white company comes in and forces us to do quality programming. I want to get that right now. So what I did with my film, for example, when we did Hidden Colors 4, one of my camera guys, he worked on the Mad Max movie. I got a lot of people who were working on major films because I needed those professional cameras. Unfortunately, a lot of black folks don't have those type of cameras. Unfortunately, a lot of black folks don't have the kind of microphones and all types of equipment that we need to make a competitive film. Now, those who do, I get them. Any black person who has like the red camera, that's what we shoot on now. If there's a black person who owns one, they work for me. So when you get a person to work for you, always look at the person who's going to bring quality to your business. And when it comes to hiring people in black, white, or whatever, understand, and our brother George Frazier said this in one of the Hidden Colors series. They said, Jewish people don't hire other people because they're Jewish. White people don't really hire other white people because they're white. They hire people who have the same equal amount of experience, and Jewishness is the tiebreaker. Whiteness is the tiebreaker. See, we have to look at it like that. When I see a brother who's just as thorough as some of these other cats, that's the guy I'm going with. That's the tiebreaker. I'm not hiring Ramon, who done shot a couple of videos on his iPhone, to do a major picture. You understand? We got to get that mentality out just because he's black. Nah, that'll run your damn business to the ground doing that type of stuff. So we got to be thinking smart when it comes to business, and you got to be competitive. Just like the NBA. The NBA, the owners are white, but they know how. If I see some players, a white player, a black player, who am I going to hire? I have a camaraderie with that white dude, but I'm trying to get this $1 billion. So I'm hiring that black dude and a bunch of them to make me this paper. So always don't let nobody get you into that whole frame where you just got to hire your cousins and your uncle and your grandma and all these people. No, you better get competitive people who are thorough and experienced to run your business. And then once you get that popping, white or black, I'm saying white or black, we live in a society where we're 13% of the population. So by sheer numbers, you're going to find a lot of people in the dominant society who are more qualified for certain positions. But that doesn't say that we're not. There's a lot of black folks out there who are qualified, and I love giving them a shot. But always look at the bottom line when you're doing business.
Yeah, you know, I can tell you I've had that experience as well. You want to. I think about it a lot in terms of hiring family. I have really gone out of my way to create opportunities for as many family members and friends as I could. And you get to that point where you have some friends and family who are going to drag down your company, you know, who are just not going to bring the quality that you need. And so I've had to fire my own kids, you know, and say, look, I can't have you. I love you, but I can't have you in here disrupting what's going on, because you are in a competition. You know, it's like if you're playing in a basketball game, you got to score your points, and you might want your buddy to be on the team with you, but if your buddy hasn't been practicing and they don't have any skill, then you're in trouble. And I think that this is really a call to everybody listening that, you know, we need Black excellence to mean that we are really, really committed to obtaining the knowledge and skill to be the very best out here on the jobs. You know, like even with young people, man, I'm astonished by how many young people I see graduating from high school who can't even put together a complete sentence. You know, they start writing and you feel like you're reading Chinese or something. I'm like, what did they teach you in school? You know, so it leaves you in a place where you're kind of stuck. And so I think that's really a call for us to sort of figure out what that's going to take. I think, in fact, that's the reason why I wanted to bring you into the Black Business School, because, you know, what we're doing now is we're teaching, right? And I think that there are some people who are never going to pursue quality. They're never going to pursue true excellence in terms of what they do. Those are not the people that are here, right? The people listening are the ones who are saying, okay, I want to go to the next level. Sometimes we don't even know what the next level looks like. Like my whole life, I always wanted to go to the next level. But when I was younger, I didn't even know there were levels out there I didn't even know existed. You know, you know what I mean? There's nothing like you were talking about how you were flossing with your 50,000, and you didn't even know that there were people who could go to the mall and drop 50K. You know,
that embarrassed the hell out of me. You know?
Man, I tell you, that reminds me of a saying I saw. It was on a poster that said, "Keep working until expensive becomes cheap." And I think that's really, you know, something you guys can hold on to. Now, let me ask you this. Okay, so before we move into, you know, some of the students' questions, and if you guys have questions, you can put them in the Q&A section. If it's in the chat, I won't see it, but if you put in the Q&A, I'll see it in there. And make the question short if possible. You know, I'm talking about a couple, 1 to 2 sentences, and let's stay, you know, make sure we stay on topic so we can respect the brother's time. But I'm going to ask you. Okay, so tell me. You know, I know that your Hidden Colors vision has evolved throughout each series. I mean, there's no way I imagine that a person could go through, you know, 4 films like that. And I know you've got your latest film out, 1804, as well. But, you know, I can't imagine somebody going through projects like that, of that magnitude, and not growing and learning a lot each time. I mean, you're talking to some of the smartest people in the world, you know, from the Francis Creswelsians, et cetera, across the board. And you're doing all this research, and you're learning about business, and you're learning about the entertainment industry. You know, you learn all these things as you go along. Can you talk about maybe a couple of things that you learned, you know, by the time you finished part 4 that you did not know when you finished part 1?
Yeah, you know, I learned a lot from everybody. And, you know, when you do these films, you already know the answers when you're going to ask people certain things. And the reason why, like, when I interviewed you, you know, everybody was asked the same thing. We asked everybody the same question. And we do that because I know I'm going to get a different answer and a different perspective on each question. And everything is interesting. Like when I went to over to Africa, when I went over to Egypt, you know, talking to James Small said that a lot of people from Egypt went over to West Africa, and many of them were the first people to be enslaved, because a lot of those people looked at as foreigners. So a lot of stuff like that I learned about, little tidbits of history. My man, Anthony Browder, just little stuff. When we're doing stuff on the Moors, the term "thank heaven for 7-Eleven," that was a term that the Europeans created because the Moors came and saved them from the Dark Ages. They were dying off over there. So little stuff like that, I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. And I thought I knew everything about Moorish history and all that. So you're always learning little tidbits here and there. Then that takes you down another road to learn more stuff. And with Dick Gregory, when I did work with him in Hidden Colors too, I mean, he's an open encyclopedia. I learned so much stuff about him and George Washington Carver, how George Washington Carver was castrated. I never knew that. Nobody knew that. And that's the thing. That's what Hidden Colors is. You're learning these things, and you're learning different aspects of history. And not just the stuff that people are talking about. I don't learn only from that. I also learn about how to produce the films better. I learned how to use different lighting techniques, different sound techniques, different colorizing techniques, different angles. So I try to make every film phonetically better and visually better. So that's always a big challenge. That's why when you look at 1804, which is my latest film, we wanted to do something more unique, which were the reenactment scenes. And we did a whole bunch of those reenactment scenes, and people really enjoyed that. So that was a challenge. So I really like to challenge myself with all the movies.
Okay, but let me ask you this. One of the greatest challenges I see a lot of Black filmmakers have is they kind of do what I call the maybe the black box or black hole theory of getting their film out there, right? They'll work hard and spend a lot of money, go make a movie, and then I'll always ask them, I get asked to be in a lot of documentaries, as you do as well, and I'll always ask, so what's the plan for this movie? How's this movie going to be distributed? What's going to happen with it? And they typically say something that pretty much comes down to, I hope somebody will come and buy it. I hope it's that Paramount Pictures or whoever is buying this stuff will come along and write a check and pay for it. And that bothers me a little bit, because it leaves me thinking, okay, so what you're saying is that if nobody buys this, if no one shows up, and white folks are the ones writing checks like that typically, or whoever, is not really Black folks. If no one buys this, then you're done. You won't have any money to make any more films. You don't know what to do with this. What I really respect about Hidden Colors, and I don't even know anything about your distribution plans or your partners. Maybe you could talk about that. But what I really respected about the Hidden Colors series was that it seemed to be a film that had Black-owned distribution of some sort, something where you were the driving force behind the distribution of this documentary, to the point where even if no one decided they wanted to partner with you on the distribution, it was still going to get out there. Mm-hmm. So, and I think that's really a powerful key, for people to understand, because I think a lot of people don't understand that that the entertainment process is the funding, the production, the distribution, the monetization, the marketing. There's a whole chain of events that must occur for a film to become successful. Not just, look at me, I made a great movie. Now money's just going to fall out of the sky. Can you kind of talk about your distribution plan in terms of how you think about distribution when you put out a film?
Yeah. So, I learned about distribution and promotion when I started writing books. My first book was a book called The Art of Macking, and that was put out for a very small publishing company in Chicago. And that book did well. That book did like 500,000 copies. And all the major book companies started to contact me about doing book deals. And I signed with them, and I learned that they were talking to me, trying to pick my brain to see how I promoted the books. Because I would go on a lot of talk shows, and we promoted the books like mixtapes almost. And they were learning the game from me. I'm like, okay, if they're learning the game from me, why am I signing over my publishing to these people? So I started to keep control of my own book publishing and market them myself. I already had access to the media. When I went to the book publishers, I started to look at the way they would market. I started to look at the distributors they were going through. So I started to contact those same people. They will distribute anything if you knew who they are. See, the thing is, you got to find out who's in somebody's Rolodex. You dig? Because that's all a lot of people do. They have their Rolodex hidden, and they pay, or they take a percentage so you can get access to their Rolodex that they hide from you. That's that whole Jerry Heller thing with Eazy-E. He met Jerry Heller through my brother Lonzo Williams. Lonzo Williams out here in Compton, and
I know Lonzo. So he wrote that book, right? What was it called? Yeah. Not without Alonzo. yeah. He sent me a copy of that book. Big ups to Alonzo if he's watching.
Yeah,
go ahead, brother.
But the story Lonzo told me that Eazy gave him $700 to get Jerry Heller's information, to meet with Jerry Heller. And that was very smart on Eazy's behalf. He said, because he knew that he knew Jerry. Because in the movie, they make it seem like Eazy went into this record store and there was Jerry Heller. No, Eazy gave Lonzo $700 to make that connection. So he paid for Lonzo's Rolodex. So I understood the importance of the Rolodex. Who's talking to who? Who's being distributed by who? Just by going to the book places that I was dealing with. Also, when I would go to these production offices, when I would do these television shows, I would always ask, what are these people back there doing? Oh, well, they do promotion. What's that person doing on the phone? Well, they do marketing. They contact the distributors here, this person there. So I just kind of ear hustled and eye hustled. And when it came to my films, I said, okay, I know certain bookstores. I know all the black bookstores because they got my books, my Mackin books and my dating books. So I already had a relationship with them, especially all the black-owned ones. And bookstores and DVD stores, black bookstores and DVD stores are one and the same. So I had that in my Rolodex, and I looked online to see where people were getting things. So I would open online accounts. And also, I had my social media accounts that were popping. Back in my MySpace days, I had a large audience there. I have a large Twitter following. So I'm like, I'm going to use this to just direct everybody to my stuff. And also, what I did, I had the Mac Lessons radio show. The Mac Lessons radio show was created specifically to promote the Mac Lessons DVD. That's the only reason I started the Mac Lessons radio in August 2006, over a decade ago. I had a Mac Lessons DVD, which was an instructional DVD based on my books on how to spit game at the ladies. It was more of a comedy thing. And my podcast, I was going to do a free podcast, let people get like thousands of people hit to the podcast. And while I'm doing the podcast, just promote the film. And the podcast turned out to be huge. So I got a big audience from the podcast, and I just kept that audience and kept building it and kept building it. And I still use my podcast as a vehicle to promote all of my other products. So one of the ways that I use marketing. You give somebody something for free, you get the free game, you get the free podcast every week, and I'm going to promote my products through that. So that's one of the ways you can market your stuff. And that's how I started distributing my stuff, because I already got the audience. So now everybody go to InColorsFilm.com, go to 1804movie.com, and I already got that audience.
Wow. Well, I love that. And everybody, I hope you're paying attention. I mean, really it's about knowing the mechanics of the process that gets you ahead, that helps you figure it out. And what's interesting to me is that, if I go to a lot of neighborhoods, around the country, if you hold let's say a seminar where you could be giving away, all kinds of powerful information to be successful, to sort of build, an amazing economic engine, you'll get a lot of people that'll be interested, but you won't get nearly as many people interested if you're doing, say, something that's just purely entertainment or purely, you know what I mean? And I, because I remember I mentioned that in a film that we have coming out called Democracy: A Black American Horror Story. I said, I remember going to, here's a funny thing. You tell me if you've ever had an experience like this. When you talk about the types of people that pay attention to Hidden Colors, or the people that might pay attention to what I'm doing, things like that, it's like, black folks kind of fall clearly in different demographics, right? You got those people where, you walk in the building, it's almost like Michael Jackson's in the, like you got to hide, you got to go through the back door, you need security because there's so many people that want to chop it up. But then you have some places that I've gone to where no one knows who I am. No one's even aware of anything that we're doing, right? And I remember feeling that when I went to a Tom Joyner event. No, respect to Tom, of course, but I remember being there, and I said, this is the first time I've been able to walk through a crowd full of black people and not get stopped for several minutes at a time. And it was a great feeling. But I remember at that event, and Tom's people, to their credit, they had brought me in because they wanted me to talk about wealth building and how to invest, things like that. So I did a little thing on how to invest, right? So I remember the same time I was doing my seminar, there was like a concert for, I think, like Mary Mary at the same time, right? And I remember the Mary Mary concert had thousands of people, traffic like down the street, out the door, couldn't even get in the parking lot. It was like almost like a state of emergency. And in my room where I was literally teaching them stuff that is about the most valuable stuff I have ever learned in my life, it was like maybe, 80 people. Something like that. And I remember just thinking, I didn't care. It wasn't really about the popularity. My feelings weren't hurt at all. But I was just sort of thinking about how a lot of times we miss the diamonds that go right across our face because we are distracted by other shiny objects that could be considered to be worthless.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? When I started doing lectures, really talking about the Hidden Color series and all that, I got one rule. I tell people all the time, when I go to colleges, I don't do free lectures at all. I don't do free lectures because when the Hidden Colors film came out, I started getting calls all over the place where people wanted, because I've been doing lectures already on relationships and dating, so I always, gotten top dollar, but I would get these calls from schools like, hey brother, hey man, hey brother, great film, can you come on, man, and do a lecture for the community? The kids really need it and all this old stuff. I'm like, well, this is my fee. Well, we ain't got no money like that, brother. And every single time I go look at the college website and they didn't pay 2 Chains $50,000. They done gave Lil Uzi Vert $75,000 the week before to come at homecoming. I'm like, no, we're going to get that backwards mentality about the community where we want to pay top dollar for entertainment, but when Tariq and Boyce come, that's going to give you some game, that's going to help you stack your money for the rest of your life. All of a sudden, hey, hotep, assalamu alaikum. And no assalamu alaikum. Just pay people so you can get that game and take that game with you. Because the Tony Robbins, whatever his name, his seminars, top dollar. Yep. People in the dominant white society, they pay top dollar to go see these dudes because they respect that game like that. They pay $20 to see the Rolling Stones or whoever, but they're going to pay $2,000 or $3,000 to go see some of that game. And we got to have that mentality.
Man, you know what? Yeah, I mean, I remember I saw a movie about Tony Robbins seminars, and I remember he had some kind of event. I think it cost $6,000-7,000.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I mean, it really, you know, it's like more motivational. It's not like Tony Robbins is going to teach you how to become Tony Robbins, right? At least that's not what I'm getting from his seminars. It's like he'll say some stuff that's really compelling and kind of get you pumped up. But, you know, when it comes to like getting those specific instructions, like here's how you form your LLC, here's how you market your product, you know, things like that to me is the powerful game. Like when I learned that stuff, that was when I felt powerful and free, you know, because it was like it took me behind the Wizard of Oz curtain. Instead of seeing, you know, white corporate America is like this place where all these magical things happen, where they magically make black people famous or whatever it is. I began to see the mechanism that controlled all of that. And it kind of gives you a type of power that a lot of us don't feel. And, you know, and we have to sort of ask ourselves, you know, and I like the fact that you do make people pay some kind of a fee to be there because, you know, it's like it's easy for them to waste your time, you know, saying, okay, well, you give away this stuff for free or whatever, and I won't pay you anything. And if I use it, I use it. If I don't, I don't. No, man, you've spent your whole life learning how to do this. So somebody who really wants to learn it should be willing to invest as much in learning from you as they would, say, spending, you know, $50,000, $60,000, $80,000 going to these universities. You got people spending $100,000, $200,000 on a college degree and can't even get a job. You know, if Tariq Nasheed says, hey, I'm going to show you how I was able to do this on my own and make millions, and there's proof to show I know how to do this, I know personally I would pay big money to have a conversation with a person like that. Those are the people that changed my life, not so much the professors.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, what I would do before I did my movies, man, I would do lectures at places like Yale. They would bring me to all these Ivy League schools, and that whole Tony Robbins crowd, they would bring me to different places, and they would want me to do seminars and in private areas and all this stuff. So there's a lot of money in that. But I wanted to do something for us. I knew it was very important for us to do our thing. And there was a controversy back in 2006 because I was going to go talk about race at Colgate University, and that was controversial back then because they were bringing me in to talk about dating and relationships, and I was going to tie race into it, and there was a whole big thing. They were like, "Oh, we can't talk about that," and they had to cancel. They had to send me $6,000, and they wrote some crazy stuff in the newspaper out there. So that's always been a very tricky and touchy subject, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to get into the film, to really dive into it. But yeah, man, we got to have our own community value this information. That's why I get on cats about the bootlegging and all that stuff. And I'm glad that people are gravitating towards the Hidden Color series because that kind of electrified the movement of people in our community trying to get the knowledge. But we got to keep it going, and we got to know how to monetize things in our community, get our economic thing going. Because always drive that fact in the movies.
Well, you know, I agree with you 100%. And just, you know, for full disclosure, I think, and I mentioned this to people, you know, I asked Tariq to come in and talk to the Black Business School students and answer some of your questions. I'm going to let we're going to start jumping to the Q&A part of the conversation in a second. But I did not ask him to come in for free. And I did, I mean, you know, I could have done some like, hey, man, we're friends. Will you do this for free, brother, whatever. But the thing is, when you become a business owner, you respect other business owners and the fact that they have people to pay, their time is valuable, et cetera. And I'm going to tell you what also Tariq did when he asked me to participate in Hidden Colors 4. I participated, you know, largely because I respected the project. I wanted to be a part of it. And I know that it's great, you know, in terms of marketing, et cetera. But I didn't ask for any money. But even though I did not ask for money, I don't know if you remember this, you wrote a check anyway. And, you know, and the thing was, it wasn't even like, I didn't even care what the amount was on the check. You know, I just saw it as a sign of respect. Like, okay, I know your time is valuable. Here you go. And to me, it was sort of the foundation of the partnership. When, when you're working with people that kind of just understand how all this works. Oh, yeah. I think when you run a business, you run to a lot of people who just don't even understand how difficult it is. They sort of look at the black business in one way. They'll tell the black business, I don't have $20 for you, but you just dropped $350 at Walmart, Kmart, Target, at the club, everything else, and I think it's kind of like important for us to sort of make sure people kind of understand that. Now with that said, man, if you're ready, I was going to jump into some of these questions.
I'm ready.
Okay, so we can do some rapid fire Q&A here. I'm not going to do a whole lot of talking unless you specifically ask me a question. This is all about Tariq and what he knows. And just so you know, Tariq, I know your time is short. So if you have to go at any point or time gets short or something, let me know. I know we're 13 minutes away from the hour, but if we go over, we'll make that up. Like, we'll talk about, how to, I can make sure that that's made right for you. All right. So Anisha says, such an honor to be in this class. Okay. I love you, Dr. Boyce and Tariq Nasheed. Okay. Well, thank you, sister. I appreciate that. Let's see. John Jameson says, Happy New Year to both of you. Okay. We're getting a lot of love here, man. A lot of people saying that they just respect you and they love us both. Okay. So Xanthine Smith asked, how do you stay and remain focused?
How do I stay and remain focused? Well, I always look at the end goal for a film. I always look at what I'm trying to accomplish, what my audience is, what message I'm trying to convey. And I always keep that in my mind whenever I'm doing a project. And always, again, like we talked about earlier, I focus on all the details to make it the most competitive product I can make. So that's one way I stay focused. Just every little detail, I got to make sure that it's going to be better than what else is out there.
Okay. All right. So Michael Hancock is asking, he says, what up, Doc and Flex? Would you both give your opinions on how we can become more confident in our abilities to be more productive and become less reliant on dominant society?
Yes. Confidence is all about self-trust. We got to learn how to trust ourselves. We have to learn how to trust our own activities. One way to do that is to set very small goals and accomplish those goals every single day. Because see, a lot of times what we do, we procrastinate and we say we're going to do something and then we don't do it, and then we lose confidence in ourselves and we lose confidence in our abilities. So we have to say what we mean and mean what we say and do everything that we say we're going to do. Set those goals. I tell you, that's going to create a level of confidence that's going to permeate in your mind, and you're just going to keep doing that because it's going to become second nature. It's going to become part of your subconscious. So set little goals. Like today, I'm going to do 5 things. I'm going to go to the grocery store. I'm going to go to the post office. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to go get a hair wax. I'm going to go to the barbershop and do those things and set little goals like that every day. Then eventually, when it comes time to you starting a business, you're not going to have that procrastinating mindset.
Okay. Somebody's asking, let's see here. Terry's asking, where can I get a copy of the webinar? Okay, you can get a copy of this conversation as well as all the other lectures for our guest lectures that come in. You can actually get it a couple of ways if you want to. It's going to be provided in the Black Wealth Bootcamp. Those of you who haven't tried it out, you should definitely try out the Black Wealth Bootcamp. You can get the first 30 days for free if you go to theblackwealthbootcamp.com. That's theblackwealthbootcamp.com. Use the code BlackWealth101. That's one word, not two. BlackWealth101. That's the code. And you get the first 30 days for free. You can try it out, see if you like it. I'll also have the content available in the All Black National Convention Study and Action Group. Remember last year after the convention, it wasn't just talking. We actually have people that are working to build and develop the things that we talked about. And you can actually join that group and also see recordings of the convention, the last 2 conventions, all the great lectures, all the great information, every great thing that was done, as well as the event I did with Louis Farrakhan not too long ago. If you want to check that out, you can go to abncdigital.com. That's abncdigital.com. Once again, the first 30 days are free, so you can try it out. If you don't like it, you certainly can go, but we hope that you'll stay because we're doing some building in this. abncdigital.com. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, somebody's asking, what's the name of the guy Tariq named? I don't know which.
Oscar Mitchell. Oscar Mitchell. You got to Google. I don't know how to spell the last name right now. I'm so used to spell check. But Oscar Mitchell, look up Black independent filmmaker Oscar Mitchell. And Dick Gregory told me that they, low-key, he thinks that they named the Oscar Award really after him. So that's
really?
That's some deep history.
Wow. It's funny, when she said what was the name of the guy, I thought she was talking about Jerry Heller, but that didn't sound quite right. Okay, so John Jameson's a brilliant guy. He's a brother. He actually owns a farm, and he's in the 48-hour business school. John Jameson says, what are your thoughts on how to use media to reach our people and give them a platform to showcase sports, news, shows, and movies from your viewpoint? What do you think?
That's a great question. I was thinking the same thing, like with what LeVar Ball is trying to do. He's trying to get that league. And I know this league that he's trying to get, where he's going to get the top-notch high school players to play ball. I know the networks are going to give him a hard time. And it would be excellent for him to start something online, get a quality online site, an online streaming site that's just top-notch, and start it there. I think it would be a huge success, and get sponsors to advertise on the site. So something like that would definitely work when it comes to sports. And that's how we should start our new black leagues. We need to start our own leagues. We need to have our own leagues so we don't have to worry about getting cussed out for kneeling and these white owners talking to us like we're slaves and all this stuff. We got to have our own stuff. Go back to the Negro League. People don't understand. The Negro League was making more money than the major leagues at the time. Black folks don't realize that. The Negro Leagues was making black and white money. See, black folks couldn't go to the major leagues, but white people could go to the Negro League games. See, segregation always went one way. We couldn't go to their circles, but they can come to our stuff, and we didn't care if they came because we knew money was money. So the white audiences would go to the Negro League games just like the black folks, because the white audiences want to see the black folks lose. That's why Floyd Mayweather has so much money. He gets money for people to see him lose. You see? So he plays up on that racial element. But the Negro League was extremely successful. This is why they got my man Jackie Robinson, because they wanted to get that black money. They wanted to get those black dollars. They didn't give a damn about black folks and white folks being together. They knew that that big money, all that pile of money sitting up there, hey, we need to be getting some of that money too. And that's exactly what they did. And we fell for it and gave up everything that we had when it came to the Negro Leagues. The Negro Leagues funded not only the players, but the black press at the time, black sports writers, black doctors, because you needed doctors and medical teams. So there was a whole cottage industry outside of that. And that's the thing we have to understand. With the Hidden Color series, there's a cottage industry outside of that. I get black bookstores who thank me for rejuvenating the book sales at their stores. More people are going to bookstores now, so everybody's books are doing well. Bookstores are selling incense and oils and the Dr. Sebi food products and all types of nutritional products. There's a big boom in that. When I do screenings, I get with promoters, and they'll do screenings, and they will invite vendors. And all the vendors are making money. So we have to understand, once we get an economic base, there's a trickle-down effect for a lot of other industries. So it's imperative that we understand how to create industries for our communities.
I like the fact that you make that point, because what it kind of says is that we can't be a community where we're all seeking to just sort of get jobs.
Right.
Because, you don't really build power when you just get jobs. You build power when you build economies, and so if you look at, a Hidden Colors film that's being shown, at different venues around the world, most of them owned by us, you do see a lot of money being made by a lot of people that Tariq doesn't even know. There are people in our events as well. Every time we do an event, there are vendors. There are some vendors that literally follow us to different cities and, things like that. And so, basically economic activity breeds additional activity. So when you think about what we lost with the Negro Leagues, we lost far more than we gained. We traded an entire industry for a couple of jobs. And that doesn't empower you at all. And that's why your self-esteem is important, because you have to ask yourself, what led us to think that trade was okay? What led us to do it is we thought that being in somebody else's environment was going to make us better people, or that somehow we've elevated ourselves by getting closer to our oppressor, when the reality is that we were doing quite well on our own. And we all go through that, man. I'll tell you what, I remember just kind of, when I used to do a lot of stuff, with mainstream media, the CNNs and stuff like that, I remember just thinking, I got to a point where I said, well, why do I even do that stuff as much anymore? Because I actually get more reach amongst my people just by doing the stuff that we already have in-house. Right. I reach more people through the podcast and stuff like that than I reach through, these sort of watered down outlets. So I began to see you know, no disrespect to the CNNs and all that. I still do that every now and then, but I began to see it almost more of a nuisance. You know, like if I go out and I do something in so-called what they call mainstream, which to me is, I consider to be the other stream. I think the mainstream is right here. Like, I really think that amongst the people that matter, you know, this is one of the most important conversations happening in the Black community right now. You know, two respected Black men teaching the community. I think that's very powerful, much more so than, you know, one of us sitting there on CNN or ABC or NBC or Love and Hip Hop and all that stuff. So at the end of the day, you got to realize, I want everybody in here to pay attention. You know, the gold is usually buried right in your backyard, but it will have no value if you see no value. You'll throw out that gold and go trade that in for some aluminum that somebody has painted. Anyway, so let me keep going here. All right, so Ron Mack is asking. Ron Mack says he's a school teacher. He says he's always dreamed of doing film. He lives in Atlanta. How do you suggest that Ron gets started?
Well, down in Atlanta, you start looking in the trades, like the trade papers down there, or the trade websites to see the camera people, the audio people down there. I like doing stuff in Atlanta. We did a horror film in Atlanta. What I like about Atlanta, the permits are not crazy, so they'll let you shoot down there for not too expensive. Also, you need to get yourself an audience. You got to start getting a grassroots audience. What do you want to shoot about? What do you want to do? Narrative films? Do you want to do documentary films? So you should already be in a position of building an audience for the type of material you want to put out. Like, for example, if you want to do a documentary about animals, you need to see what the animal community down there, the people who work for PETA, the National Geographic folks, or the Humane Society folks, and just look into that community. So when you build your weight up and you put out some product, you can market your stuff to that community. So you always have to really test the waters of the community you're trying to promote your stuff to.
Okay. All right. So John Mace is asking, how do you deal with the catch-22 of not hiring because of experience, but needing the job to get experience? So, you know what I'm talking about? Like when they say you need experience, but you're like, okay, well, how do I get the experience? What suggestions do you have for John?
Well, the thing is, if you want to get into any kind of industry, you're going to have to go out of your way to get that game. If you want to be a cameraman, you're going to have to go somewhere, intern, and learn the game, possibly go to school, but really try to intern somewhere to get some on-the-job training, on-site training, and do it. A lot of us want to take the easy road. A lot of us want to get a little camera, shoot a video for your homeboy, and then you're like, hey, let me get on and do this, and you don't really have the chops for it. No, you need to go somewhere, work for free for a minute. See, we got a thing sometimes where we want to get, you know, paid what the next brother's getting, instead of going somewhere and soaking up that game and learning from somebody and being an apprentice to somebody and really seeing how they get down. And then you take that information and you use it for your own benefit. So we got to get that experience from being around working for free. That's how you're going to get the experience. Because the thing is, most people, if you don't have any kind of thorough experience, they're just not going to give you a shot like that. You're going to have to pay your dues as far as a lot of stuff. And that's anything, any business you go through. Like my first film, the first film I did was the Mac Lessons. It was more like a comedy thing. So the quality, when I look back at it, the quality is, you dig? But I learned how to get my weight up. I learned what to do and what not to do. So every film became progressively better. Look at the first Hidden Colors film. The first Hidden Colors film, the quality was okay. The quality got progressively better. And I took my time to make sure, okay, I don't like the way that looks, so next time I'm going to make it better. I don't like the way that sounded, so next time I'm going to make it better. So you have to be willing to make those sacrifices.
You know, and what I'll say is that, you know, one of the things that's really surprising to me is that there are a lot of people who think working for free is a bad thing. And I never thought that way. I've always kind of expected that I'd have to do a lot of work for free, because to me, that's an investment. You know, anybody who's ever made any money has probably made an investment, which means you give up something now so you can get more later on. And so, or you let go of your money now so you can have more money coming to you later. Well, sometimes you can make investments in terms of your labor and your time as well, and get more later on down the line. And the thing is, this is not a foreign concept. I mean, if you said, imagine if somebody says, I want to be a doctor, and they say, well, but I don't want to pay no money to go to medical school. I don't want to spend no time going to school. I just want you to just start paying me to start being a doctor, and I'll figure it out. while I'm, you know, killing people and, and giving them the wrong medication and everything else, it would sound crazy, right? Mm-hmm. Most people know that if you want to be paid to be a doctor, you need to, first of all, cough up a couple $100,000 to go to medical school, cough up a few years of school, 6, 7, 8 years of school, you know, and go through that. And then you've learned the game. Then they start compensating you after you've given 8 years of your life and a couple $100,000. They're not going to start paying you from day one when you know nothing about the medical profession. So when it comes to learning how to be, that's the same rule applies when it comes to learning how to be a filmmaker, learning how to, you know, run a business, learning how to do any sort of skill that you're getting your name out there as a journalist or whatever. You're going to probably have to do an internship process where you're donating at least your labor. And sometimes you might have to actually even spend money to do that. If you really get a chance to learn from somebody that's good, you should be willing to spend some money and spend some time learning from that person. If you know they're going to teach you something good, you already do that when you go to college, and you're paying a bunch of professors that half the time they've never even done the thing that they're teaching you how to do. You know, and I think that's important for people to kind of understand.
You know what? Charlie Murphy, the late Charlie Murphy, Eddie Murphy's brother, the great comedian. Charlie Murphy, when he was on Chappelle's show, that's the thing that really elevated him to a whole new audience, to a whole new level. Charlie Murphy only got $500 an episode for the Chappelle show. That's it. $500 an episode for the Chappelle show. Yeah. And
wow.
Yeah. That's it. But the thing is, that blew him up to a whole different level. Then he became a comedian after that. He wasn't a comedian before that. He was a character actor. But then he said, okay, I got all this notoriety. Let me parlay this now. So then he started to work on his comedy, went on tour, and he died on tour. He was on tour, you know, when he died. But that just goes to show sometimes, you know, when you go into the building, you're not going to get top dollar. But you're getting that game, you're getting that notoriety, you're getting that experience. You're learning the game, you're learning the craft, you're honing your craft, and then you can take that information, parlay it for yourself, and you can start getting top dollar. So we got to look at it like that. When I started doing stuff at VH1 and MTV, like I did a couple of episodes of a show called Made back in the day, back in like 2005.
I remember that show.
Yeah, Made. They had me make this dude into a player, this little nerdy white kid into a player. And I think they gave me like $1,000 an episode, low ball, you know. And I would have to drive all the way up to Arizona every week. And I mean, it was a tedious thing for only $1,000 an episode. But when they aired it, man, my book sales shot through the roof. You know? I'm like, I'm taking this to the desert. It's hot. I got to wear my Mac suits in the desert. But when it came out, man, my book sales just quadrupled, and my lecture rate started to go up. So you got to make those sacrifices. Sometimes you got to pay those dues like that.
Mm. You know, I like that a lot. It's funny, you know, I will say this, that, you know, even when I'm being generous, I'm usually not as generous as I might appear to be, right? You know, one secret I'll confess to is that when it comes to doing business, in order to survive in business, first question you got to ask yourself is, how am I going to get paid? How am I going to benefit from this? And the thing about that question, though, that if you're smart, you understand that being paid does not always mean somebody writing you a check, right? Being paid might mean connections. It might mean experience. It might mean, exposure. It might mean skill. It might mean coming back later on down the line and having proven your worth and knowing you can get paid more the next time. And so I encourage everybody to think that way, because I run into a lot of people who just somehow they think working for free is insulting. And I just want you to know, I've always done a lot of work for free, but even free wasn't always free. You know, I always had a plan, but it was more chess, not checkers. You know, if you're playing checkers your whole life, then you'll never be a chess player. So you'll never be able to roll with the chess players. And so you want to make sure that you're always thinking in that way. So what I'm gonna do is we'll fly through a few more questions, and then I know I kept you a little bit longer than the hour we talked about, Tariq, but is it okay if we go to 9:15? Does that work for you, bro?
Yeah, that's fine. 9:15. I'm looking at 7:05, but yeah, 9:15.
Oh, okay, 9:15 Eastern. Okay, cool. All right, so let's see here. Shaquita Graham, a brilliant sister out of Atlanta, is asking, how do you determine if a quote-unquote good idea has a chance of being lucrative?
If a good idea is lucrative, you know what? A good idea depends on the person's passion behind it. It's all about your passion. You can market anything. If you got enough passion behind it, You can market anything. It just depends on your enthusiasm. In the 1970s, they had pet rocks. Somebody came up with an idea of getting rocks, putting them in a box, and making these big advertisements saying, hey, you gotta get a pet rock. They're the greatest thing ever. It was a novelty gift, but the way they made it sound and the way they marketed these pet rocks, it became a huge success. So your enthusiasm is very important. Promoting a product is very important. That's why Puffy is so, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, he's successful because Puffy is ultimately a promoter. He knows how to get out there and promote stuff and make something exciting. And you got to know how to go out there and get the whole public excited about your product. Why should we be excited? Why is this hot? How is this going to benefit me? How is this going to make me feel good? So there's a lot of stuff you got to do to touch people emotionally as far as promoting a product. And if you're passionate about it, they're going to be passionate about it. A lot of times, and I see this from a lot of black folks, when they start a business or they have a product, because I've been to seminars and I've been to places where there were vendors and they'd be like, hey man, you want to try I got some cake, it's kind of good, you want to try it. And if you got that mentality, it's like, okay, I'll try it when I get home, but you got to have enthusiasm about that. Hey, look, the bomb cakes are right here. Everybody come over here. These cakes are going to save your life. Get these bomb cakes. And if you promote it like that, they're like, damn, I got to have some of that damn cake.
I love it. All right, so Ronell's asking, when will Hidden Colors 5 come out? Is it going to be a part 5?
Yeah, there's going to be a 5. I don't, we're working on, before I do the films, I like to kind of let the ideas come to me, what we're going to talk about. One thing I know we're going to talk about a lot of the military things that went on in Africa. I want to talk a lot about Hannibal and some of the military strategies, Queen Nzinga and all of this stuff. I want to talk more about the medical profession as it pertains to us. We touched on that in Hidden Colors 3, but I really want to talk about what they're doing with the medical profession as it pertains to us, because I'm learning more about these melanin seminars that white people are having all over the world, and I really want to get into that, man. They got something called the International Pigment Conference, Skin Pigment Conference, man, and they have these things all over the world that white and Asian doctors are having, and all they're doing is studying melanin. So I want to really get into that stuff and see what's going on. So I'm doing a lot of research about that right now. See, before I do my films, I do a hell of a lot of research. I fly over to a country and see what's popping. I fly over to Africa and see what's popping. I fly to Asia. Like when we did Hidden Colors, I think 2 or 3, I went into the jungles of Malaysia. It was like a 20-hour flight, a 5-hour drive, a 2-hour boat ride. I'm like, we were living in a hotel in the jungle, and I'm with some of these Aboriginal people with big afros. So I'm like, I do hella research to do these films. People don't know. When we did 1804, have you been to Haiti before, boys?
One time, but I didn't get to see the real Haiti. I saw the cruise ship version of Haiti.
Yeah, man. When we did 1804, I went. I was getting shots that have never been seen before, like up at the Citadel, the big old fortress that's up there in Haiti. And I mean, you got to take a plane, another small plane, and then you got to drive, then you got to ride a donkey up a mountain, and you got to pay people off. I mean, I'm like Indiana Jones doing these damn films. And then we were doing drone shots, and then my drone operator, we had to break government codes in order to get the drone shots because they block out the frequencies. So we're like on some Mission Impossible Tom Cruise shit to get these shots, man. So but you got to have that kind of passion. You think if you got that kind of passion, the audience, they're going to feel that.
All right. Well, I love it. Well, I think people are feeling the passion right now as you're even talking about it. I think that by describing in detail the work that went into the creation of the project, that right there sounds like a marketing tool as well, and a good, strong, ethical tool in the sense of you're letting people know the lengths that you went to ensure that Black folks got quality. Because you get a lot of people that won't do all those things, and so I think it's important for people to kind of know that. So think about that next time you co-sign on your cousin bootlegging this film. Just know. It ain't right. And I want everybody to know too. I don't know if did I ever tell you that that was over Damon Dash's house. You and me and Dame sat together I guess a year ago, but I was at his house and I was telling him about Hidden Colors, and I was like, you didn't hear about Hidden Colors, and he said, well, let's watch it. And so we went downstairs and we watched it down in his basement, and his son was there, and I remember how impressed he was. That was what made him say, tell me more about this guy, and I think that it's important that all of us as Black people just kind of acknowledge when our people are doing well. I know you want to cheer for Viola Davis, and I know you want to talk about what F. Gary Gray is doing and stuff like that, but if you take away the support that they get from, other people, if you took away the platforms, you took away the resources, if you took away the money that is behind their projects, the question becomes, how much would you know about Viola Davis? How much would you know about F. Gary Gray if there was nobody there to give these people jobs? Tariq doesn't need anybody to give him a job. And that's important also because, remember, that's how Hollywood started. Hollywood started with people first they were making a few thousand, then they started making a few million, then they started making a few billion. And so in 50 to 100 years, when the Black Hollywood grows and it becomes a $1 trillion industry, it's gonna be because of what's being done right now, what's happening right now. I think that the community's kind of understanding what it takes to turn a film into a blockbuster, because people build blockbuster projects off of our backs all the time. We just don't understand the mechanics in terms of what our role is, in terms of how much money we're contributing to these projects. I want to ask you about this, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah. You see that film coming out, The Black Panther, from Marvel. Now, that looks like a dope film. I mean, the imagery is beautiful, Black people on screen. Marvel makes great great comic films. They do the comic films unlike anybody else. How do you feel, just as a person who, has made a Black project, from start to finish, distributed on your own, stuff like that? How do you feel when you see such a, what appears to be a strong Black project kind of coming out of, white Hollywood? Like what kind of goes through your mind with that?
What's interesting about that with Marvel, Marvel, they got their weight up through Black people. You understand that? Marvel had one of the biggest flops in a movie, which was Howard the Duck. Back in the 80s, the movie called Howard the Duck, they put millions of dollars in that movie, and it just completely flopped. It was an infamous flop. So many people got fired because of that movie, and Marvel kept putting out movies that were just flopping back to back. Wesley Snipes' Blade saved the Marvel franchise. All of these comics, these comic movies, X-Men, all that, they got to bow down to Wesley Snipes in the Blade series. And the Blade series was killing the game. They started to etch Wesley out. You saw that? And they made him a secondary character, and Wesley didn't like it. There was a whole bunch of tension on set. So they always rolled our backs as far as that. So I don't look at it as them giving us a favor. We've always been the ones that they came up on. So they should be doing more movies like that, because we helped create the Marvel franchise that made them pop off. So Marvel owes the Black audience.
Wow. Well, that's deep. It's funny. I just happened to read the Howard the Duck and Blade stuff like last week. But if you'd said this 2 weeks ago, this would have been new information. I think most people don't know that. I'm glad you shared that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so let's see. We got time for just a couple more questions before we let this brother get back to his busy schedule. If you are a student in the Black Business School, just so you know, I'm going to have Tariq. I'm going to invite him in to do Q&As for the Black Business School students regularly, as well as other great Black filmmakers in our space. And I'm talking about people like Mark Harris, Rick Mathis, etc. I'm talking about the people that are really doing it independently, not the people that just have a job. Anybody knows how to go get a job. I want people that can teach you how to build an economy. So Dwayne is asking a good question. Dwayne's asking about equipment, and what are some good equipment investments that you can make if you want to be a good, strong, independent filmmaker?
Definitely your camera. Like I said, my go-to thing is Red. That's the standard, the Red cam. Those Red cams, they're kind of expensive, but you can find those cameramen. Also, this is very important. I tell my Black filmmakers this: make sure your audio is on par. A lot of Black filmmakers come from the video making world. So when it comes to video, you are not really recording audio on set. You're playing a track and just recording the visuals. So a lot of times, a lot of our Black filmmakers don't focus on making the audio as top quality as possible, and that will mess up your product. You gotta have your audio on point. Once you get your audio and the visuals on point, make sure your editor is thorough. Not only is your editor thorough, you gotta make sure the color correction is thorough. And then also when you get the sound, from the sound recorder, get the sound designer to add all types of enhancements to the sound. So there's a lot of little details you got to go into. But when you think when you're doing it on a smaller level, you can kind of cut corners a little bit and find certain people that will work with you and do deals with you. But you just got to be meticulous about those details to get your product looking and sounding the best way possible. And when you get a good looking and good sounding product, the audience will start coming to you.
All right. Well, I love that. Let's see here. Okay. Funding and money. I see a couple questions on that. Kendrick and Renee, this is the last couple questions. They're asking about how you can get the funding for your films, as well as, the budgets for a quality project. What do you think in terms of budgets and funding?
Yeah, the great thing is now you got crowdfunding. You got Indiegogo, GoFundMe, Kickstarter, and all this. And what you have to do, you have to let people know who you are and why they should give you money. Because you got a lot of janky people who put up GoFundMe pages and make up something to get money for. You got anonymous people trying to get money, so then it becomes a little hustle. So in order to get around all that, you have to let people know who you are. You have to show them a little bit of what you're capable of doing. When you bring something or ask for something, show people what they're investing in. Give them something thorough. Give them a quick 30-second teaser or 1-minute teaser that's high quality to show that you're serious. Don't shoot nothing on your camera phone. Don't go out and shoot a pit bull and say, hey, man, I'm about to do a documentary on animals, dude. I need $30,000. No, you got to do better than that. Put some real money into something to show people what you're trying to do so they can invest in something. People like to invest in something that they believe is going to be successful.
All right. And it's successful and real, and you must, when you start something, you raise money, make sure you complete the project, because when it comes to money, trust is extremely important. And, as a community, if we're trying to build this, we need people to know that what they invest in is going to turn into something that's going to be what they expect it to be. We know things happen, but at the same time, don't sort of pretend to be able to do something that you cannot do. And I just think about that because I think about times where people have asked me to invest in something and they, the imagery of what they tell me they're going to do is great. But then when it comes to the actual mechanics of getting it done, they're not ready. And I think some people have a mindset that says, okay, I'm going to just go get the money and then I'll figure it out along the way. And I think that's very risky.
And then you have people who just look at it as a hustle. They say, okay, they in their mind, they know they're not going to do anything, but they go out here and crowdfund and get some money and then pocket the money. And then that seed of distrust is going back into the community. So we need to just cut all that out, period.
Right on. Well, I love it. Well, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and let Tariq get back to his day. He's not sitting around twiddling his thumbs. He's running King Flex Entertainment. And I hope everybody can just give a quick digital round of applause for our brother. Just give some hearts or some thank yous and just let him know how much you appreciate the fact that he's dropped game on you during this session. Once again, I'm going to have him come back. I'm going to bring in other filmmakers as well over time between, I mentioned Rick Matheson, Mark Harris, Raheem Shabazz. I'm going to reach out to him. Also, Tierra KJ Williams, Dorian Chandler, and just anybody that really has something that they can add in terms of helping you to figure these things out. And it's not just about the entertainment space, though, in filmmaking. It's about all elements of business. Everybody from the rapper D1, who became a millionaire literally independently as an artist. You have all kinds of people out here that are running other kinds of businesses. And these are the kinds of teachers that we bring into the Black Business School. Yeah, we want the scholars. We want the people with PhDs, law degrees, master's degrees, and all that. But we also want the people that have the experience. The experience and the success, in my opinion, it trumps the degree. The degree only says that it looks like you might be successful if you do things right, but the success itself is the ultimate trump card, which says that you are actually good at what you do and you know the little things that you will not learn in school, and that's what we do in the Black Business School. So if you guys want to get copies of this of these conversations and have this information and all the instruction kits, we have hundreds of hours of content. Feel free to get started. If you want to learn how to start a business, go to blackmoney103.com. That's blackmoney103.com. That's the third course in our Black Money sequence. Blackmoney103.com. The first 30 days are totally free, so you can try it out, kick the tires, see if you like it, join with your family. If you like it, we hope you stay. If you don't like it, you can go, but we have a 100% quality guarantee. So if within 30 days you don't like it, we'll give you your money back. We have a full support team right there to give you black excellence in terms of customer service, because that's what we believe in and that's what we practice. That's what we preach. So thanks again, Tariq, man. It was awesome, brother. And I'm gonna hit you up, and we're gonna keep on working together, man, because I love what you're doing. And I really think that as much as you've accomplished, I really think this is the beginning. I believe that there's a very good chance this brother's going to be a billionaire by the time it's all said and done. I'm just glad to be along for the ride, man.
No doubt, man. I appreciate you so much, Dr. Boyce.
For sure, for sure. All right, everybody, you have a good night and Happy New Year, and have a great 2018. I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.